now?
You are.
Okay. The greatest idea is the one that sticks. And I hope that today many great ideas will come forward, and that our nation in particular and also our riding will be able to benefit from those sorts of things. So I just would like to bring greetings on behalf of Mary Ng, who's the member for Parliament for Markham Thornhill, and congratulate you on the success that you'll have today and moving forward. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Oh, I'd also like to present this certificate to Jason, who's perfectly timed himself for this moment. So thank you for that, Jason.
Thanks so much. Someone taking photos?
Maybe we should use the spotlight that's over here.
All right, okay.
Yeah. And you should join us too. You should join us too. You have a beautiful smile. My assistant.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much to Mary Ng's office for the thoughtful presentation and for being here today. And thank you for fitting us in your busy schedules. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, you've had lunch, you've had a chance to refresh yourself, and now you are ready for 4 amazing presentations. First up, I'd like to welcome Hyperion to the stage. So a warm welcome.
Thank you, Jess. Once again, welcome everybody and good afternoon. My name is Anselm Viswasam, and I head up the team at Hyperion, and it's wonderful to have you guys. First and foremost, I want to say a big thank you to OC and Angelo for having me up here. It's a pleasure. And to the team at Venture Lab as well. We're neighbors, we live here, so it's a one big family. Wonderful to be here. I did my presentation in Chinese because I was told that it was going to be a Chinese delegation, but I am actually going to present in English because my Chinese is awful. So bear with me. I will talk about it. Hyperion, as I mentioned a little earlier, we're in the business of developing something called a sensor, which we add into large electrical assets. What are these large electrical assets? If you've ever driven by the highway, you probably see something like this. This is sort of in the woods, but it's a structure that has a whole bunch of large pieces of equipment, electrical equipment, mostly made out of metal. They're actually fairly dumb. There's no real intelligence inside of them. And there's a very good reason for that. There's a high voltage and high electricity and current, and so there's a very complex structure, and standard methods of adding intelligence doesn't really work. The unfortunate thing is that when these things fail, we kind of understand what that means. Lights go out, all that stuff. But aside from that, the environmental disaster and the costs actually incurred in fixing it can actually be debilitating for a lot of utilities. So the question really is for some of these utilities is to say, okay, these things may or may not fail, but how do I get to the point when I actually get them to start talking to me, telling me what's actually wrong with them? And so that's where the Hyperion solution comes in. We've developed a solution using a fiber, and I do have a sample of it right here. If you can see it, can you see it at the back? Oh, that sucks, because I didn't want you to see it. So it's almost invisible. It's about the thickness of one strand of your hair. It's 250 microns. We can run miles and miles of it, and it's one sensor. And so we can now start to sensor these very, very large assets and not have to worry about multiple components. It's just one singular element that comes back. Why is this important? I mean, from a business standpoint, is this exciting? Yeah, sure it is, because I know for a fact I'm an ex-ABB guy, and ABB is one of the companies that builds these large transformers. I know that they have on their books for 2017, the number of transformers that they will be building. When I extrapolate that to the marketplace, it works out about 500,000 transformers that are being built right now in North America for the year 2017. So it's a tremendous market. It's large. The nice thing is as we go forwards and these utilities are replacing these units, they actually have no choice. It's not like they have say, well, we'll build a transformer this year or not. That thing is dying. You're going to have to replace it. So the issue about market is that it's fixed, it's firm, and these key decision makers have no real choice in saying no to building them. If you don't believe me, we can go to the marketplace and get some market research done. This is Navigant, which is actually quite cool because they're not just saying that the market is a pure replacement market, it actually is growing. And in North America in 2017, there's over almost $5.5 billion worth of these coming online. So it's a real market, it's growing, and it's here to stay. A little bit about sensing. It's important to understand, just very quickly, in terms of competition and so on, what exactly is a sensor. It's actually fairly simple. If we take something, it's a little material, if you will, it's a semiconductor, it's a resistor, it's something, and it converts energy from one form, maybe it's heat energy, to an electrical signal on the other side. It could be chemical, carbon dioxide, or whatever we want to analyze, and it sends it out as an electrical signal. So we have some surface area which makes up the sensor, and a little lead that brings the data back. The biggest issue now with this is that if you have a large surface area, like this screen, for example, how would you sensor it? How many of these would you use? Would you use 10? Would you use 100? And then therefore, what is the complexity associated with 100 of these sensors coming back? All right? That leads to the disruption with respect to the Hyperion sensor. We actually use something very simple. It's this fiber, as I showed you. It's very simple. That's all it is. And on the one end, we actually shine a light, a laser through it. And based on the reflections and refractions that happen as it passes through the fiber, we can actually tell what is happening right along its surface. This principle is called a distributed fiber optic sensing solution. And right now, we can actually tell temperature right down to plus or minus 1 degree centigrade. And we've got a spatial displacement about 1 meter between 2 points. And I love this because you can see now how we would actually sensor this wall. Right? Because now this wall, I can actually tell you what's happening here, and what's happening here. If I had a point sensor, I could only get this point, and 100% of the time, you got the wrong point. Because if I place it here, and a fault happens on the top right-hand corner, you'll never pick it up. All right? So what does this mean again? As we look at a transformer, for example, if you had to pick a point, which point would you pick? I was talking to Amran, a utility in the US, a couple of weeks ago, and one of the transformer engineers joked. He said, we've become experts at picking the wrong point. We've become experts over the last 6 years. And why is this such a great value now? Because now I can take one fiber, I can wrap it around any number of times, and I can tell you what's going on inside of it. Or, in other words, the asset is going to talk back to me and tell me what's wrong with it. In terms of my team, I've got a fantastic team here. I've spent 20 years, half of it at GE and the other half at ABB. My director of engineering, Ilya Chaplia, he's started his own company, 30 years, built mission-critical systems, amplifiers, and so on for the aircraft industry. Some of his customers include Boeing and Airbus. And so we do know one or two things about building mission-critical systems. More than anything, I think when he started, he could have gone on and done something else with his life. But we met up, and he got excited enough to join this business. And he's been, I would say, the engine behind what we're doing here. If any of you are having a low moment today, go speak to Ilya, because I can guarantee you he's going to put a zip in your drive. Nick DiPardo is... started life also at Westinghouse, and which became GE, as a transformer design engineer. So as a team and as a solution, Hyperion is not just developing a solution, it's a sensor and taking it to customer and saying, here's a sensor, good luck. We're actually being able to do something from cradle to grave. saying, listen, we know exactly how your transformer or your reactor or your capacitor bank actually works. We actually know how it's put together, and here's how we're going to show you how it's done. So it's a total solution in that sense. Very fortunate, a lot of good traction. We have a great team, as I said, which really translates to great traction in the marketplace. In our very first year, we signed on Veridian, which is the utility next door, which covers Ajax and Pickering, and now I think we'll also cover Whitby. I think they're just merging with Whitby. And they gave us a transformer and said, okay, do it. Let's see, can you put a sensor into the transformer? So we did that. This year, we've actually closed Ameren. It's an electric utility in the US. It's the 14th largest electric utility in the US. It's a $6 billion company. They made, in 2016, $6 billion in revenues, of which $1 billion was total outright profit. I'm really lucky because last week, after a year and a half of knocking on the door, Hydro One actually gave us an order last week. So a very, very proud moment that something is growing in my backyard. We're, again, fairly well connected. CFE is the it's the utility in Mexico, and we're starting a project with them in Q4 of this year as well. In terms of numbers, our base system cost, our price to the market would be, say, about $55,000 for a sensor system. We expect that in this year we'll probably do about 10. We've got Veridian, we've got Ameren, we've got Hydro One now, so 3 already. So we're making significant progress towards hitting these milestones. We think we'll do a margin somewhere in the 60% range. And this, as I said, was a base cost. So keep in mind, if we did a very, very large asset, something like a $5 million asset, and we were to request something in the range of an 8% price, 8% of cost based on price, then you could very easily see that we'd be at a $250,000 or $300,000 per system. So our margins will really go up in time. We're looking to raise right now just under $1 million. Much of it is actually going to be used in paying our engineers, basically. What this is really saying is that we've the R is completed, the development is in our, please come out and see us. All we're doing right now is getting that final product, we're almost finishing that product so we can get it into the hands of the customers. So most of that is just pure engineering effort right now. And so much of this, the burn rate here, much of the costs here are actually engineering costs. So I'd say about 70% is going to be allocated towards engineering, and the others towards sales and marketing and operations. In terms of an exit strategy, in my generation, I've been very, very fortunate. The 2 of the biggest exits in the energy space actually happened right here in Toronto. There was Multilin, which I worked at, and GE bought us out in 1996. We were just over about $24 million in revenues, and GE bought us out for $166 million, which is an 8 times multiplier on revenue. A good chunk of the team left to form RuggedCom. I was there for the first year. And in 2008, Siemens bought RuggedCom for $242 million on revenues of just under $36 million. So at 8 times the revenue. One note I want to point out, all of these businesses, the Multilin and the RuggedCom businesses, were singular vertical businesses. Whereas Hyperion is actually a horizontal application. What does that mean? That means that the Hyperion solution can actually work in any of these verticals. So a GE, for example, would make transformers, would make reactors, would make capacitor banks, and a whole host of equipment. And the Hyperion sensor would actually be viable in all of these assets. So for them, it's not a singular vertical business, it's a horizontal business. So there's absolutely no reason, if we hit a 20 million mark, we should be able to do 10 times the revenues if we so choose, or more. In terms of achievements and so on, I just want to highlight very quickly here. Started in 2015. We won an IRAP award. I'm very, very proud to announce that we are OC Smart Start Award winner in December 2015. Based on that and some of the work we did, we were able to close the Veridian order. And this is a milestone. A lot of people said, you've got some funky technology. We're not sure you can actually get it done. Well, we did that. Then a lot of people said, don't think you're going to be able to put it in a transformer. Got that done. And lastly, I'm really, really proud, as I mentioned, about this Ameren engagement, which came up at our 2nd year mark in July. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Amron actually created an incubator program. They went out in the marketplace. Over 600 companies applied for this globally. And Hyperion won this competition, and we won first overall. It came with an equity position Amron decided to take because we won. Amron decided to take an equity position in us. And so we're no longer just a vendor to them. They're actually an equity partner now. So it's in their best interest to give us these orders. So in fact, on Wednesday, we're going to get our first transformer from them. And I think when people say, maybe you know, if you're going after the Hydro ones and the Amrons, not sure you can do that, I think we did that too. So in closing, just want to thank you again for having me. I think that technology is wonderful. We've got a great technology. But more than that, I think we have the team and the connections in the marketplace that makes us such an irresistible, compelling argument to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anselm. No, I'm good. I'm always mic'd. So at this point in time, I'd love to give an opportunity for our judges to ask a question. And then after that, there'll be an opportunity for 1 or 2 questions from the floor. Judges, any questions before we ask you for your comments?
Seriously, like what other sectors other than transformer in the energy sector can you use the technology?
Good question. I mean, we can use it anywhere. Part of the issue with being a startup is staying focused. I come from the space. Most of my team are from the space, and we're fairly well connected. So as we launch and as we go forwards, it's a natural thing to be right here, right now. Once we do this, Amron is actually, we're very, very, very lucky because in the US it's uncommon, and in Canada, but it's not uncommon in the US to have electric utility that also does water and gas. So we're already talking about doing the gas pipelines. That automatically brings us into the oil and gas business without doing very much. That's one thing. The second thing is, a lot of these large industrials, oil and gas and anything else, they take their lead from the way the utilities employ and deploy these new technologies. They take the lead. Because if it can work at the utility level, then we're comfortable. The Sunoco's and the SOs and the BPs are all very comfortable about deploying this technology. So we'd rather start here in the electric space and work our way down than start there and try desperately hard to force the ball up the hill.
Who are your
Sorry, long question, long answer.
Who are your competitors who are doing the same thing exactly like yours?
In my space, there are none. And we would like that, isn't it, with disruptive technology? There are people who are capable of doing it. They're doing something else. The point sensors, as I said to you, so they're capable. They could follow us. There's this technology, which is the distributed fiber optic sensor, is currently being used in buildings and bridges and civil structures, mostly because of the cost. So at this time, this technology is probably $500,000 or more. And so it's relevant when you're building a bridge, which might be a $500 million asset. It's not relevant when on a $5 million asset. And so the key with Hyperion is that we've been able to develop a low-cost solution that we can excite our customers with. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for your presentation, Anselm. Have you explored the market outside of North America?
Absolutely. And again, because we have these great relationships with ABB and GE and Siemens, we've got NDAs with ABB, we've got NDAs with GE, we've got NDAs with Siemens, and these are all global players. Once we have built and deployed equipment from their factories here in North America, it's only a matter of time before that gets translated right across the globe. So that's just another milestone getting it done.
Anselm, congratulations on actually getting an order in your backyard. I know a lot of early stage companies here in Canada seem to succeed outside of Canada, and the ones that are literally at arm's reach don't seem to connect. So kudos to you. How and your strong relationships with ABB and the other partners that you have potentially. How do they view the Chinese marketplace in terms of opportunities?
All of these players, ABB, GE, and Siemens in particular, so we'll talk about the tier 1 players, all have dedicated factories in China. In fact, when I was at ABB, I worked in the Shanghai factory at ABB, so very well versed in that. It's kind of interesting to note that in the Chinese market, these ABBs, the large players, do own 51% of the organization. So they're able to actually make some decisions of their own and take it to market. So yes, we do have relationships. I do have relationships with them, and access to the Chinese market will be, I won't say easy. We certainly would need good, strong local representation. But in terms of the people who are building and who are building in China, we already have some of those relationships in place to help leverage.
Go ahead.
And so what sort of barriers to entry are there preventing other competitors from getting into the market? I'm wondering how much intellectual property protection do you have?
So when we created some of that IP and intellectual property, what we decided is that we would do the technology, or we'd look at it as at a more global level. So we said we'll do the fiber optic sensing for high voltage assets. So we covered that entire spectrum, if you will. So it's the substation assets, so whether it's a transformer, a reactor, a capacitor bank, whatever, the IP covers all of that. In terms of competitors, the barrier, I think, and that's where we really excel, is that there are a lot of companies who might be great at developing sensing technologies, but they may not have the reach inside of this space. They don't have the connections, and they don't have the credibility that my team has established over the years, and that's going to be big. If you sit with me in a meeting with the utility, you'll get it very quickly what that means.
Judges, would you now like to provide a few moments of feedback before we move on to the audience?
There is a gentleman here who wants to ask a question.
Yeah, we're going to do questions just after. We're finishing with the judges, and then we turn it over to the audience. Don't worry, I won't forget you. Judges, comments on the presentation? Any feedback that you'd like to add in?
Again, excellent presentation. A really unique technology for obviously a very large market in terms of potential. I think I wanted to just congratulate you again on the success of Hyperion as an Ontario startup, coming #1 out of 600 in that competition that Amarin ran. So congratulations.
Thank you. I think I fixed this presentation because they couldn't answer any questions because it was in Chinese.
we had both choices. So you've come a long way since I first saw you, not only in the story, but also the presentation of the story. So I think you're doing a great job. And I want to make sure that you don't forget us now that you have this stronger presence south of the border in St. Louis. Remember that this location is the roots of it.
I did lose a lot of weight along the way, so.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Ladies and gentlemen from the audience, it is now your turn. Question at the back.
First of all, I want to say that's a phenomenal presentation. I really appreciate that. I hate to say this is way above my pay grade, but I want to just ask, have you thought of organic applications?
Organic? As in biological and so on?
Yes.
Medical?
Yes.
You know, that's part of our problem, is staying focused every single day. We come in the morning, and Ilya and I will spend half an hour, and it's like, what if? You know, wow, we could do this, and we could do this. Wouldn't it be so much simpler if we did this? And then very quickly we have that coffee, and we say, you know what, let's stay the course. We need one really huge home run, and everything else will follow. So that's all we're working on. It's not that we don't see all these applications, but it's just really just trying to stay focused and win where we can. We have a really good shot at winning here, and so we have to give it everything.
One more question from the floor? Fantastic. Well, a warm round of applause for Anselm. Well done. Now may I ask Jason to join me? We are delighted. We have a presentation from the office of Sean Chen. I believe Judy's in the room today to make a presentation.
Just present the letter.
Okay, present the letter. Is there a letter to present?
Yep.
Perfect. Please come join us, yes, so you can present to. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a presentation from MP Sean Chen's office.
One second. One more.
We're very lucky to have so much support from local MPs and municipal councillors as well. Thank you so much for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for another treat, a great presentation by WeTruck. WeTruck, can you join me up here? It's your turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ishan Singla, and I'm the founder of WeTruck. So WeTruck is a small credit card-sized global tracking device that allows you to monitor the location of your loved ones anytime and anywhere across the globe. I'm sure everyone sitting here either has a loved one or knows of someone affected with autism, Alzheimer's, or dementia. I want to share a personal story with you all. My aunt has dementia, and she lost her husband about 15 years ago. But somehow she still thinks that he's alive, and she constantly talks to him. She lives alone, and we have a home care nurse who visits her daily to keep check on her. But still, there are times when she's alone, and there is this constant fear if she's doing okay or not. In fact, she has wandered several times, but luckily we were able to find her. It was back in September 2015. I was going back from work, and I thought to myself, you know what, let me go check on her if she's doing okay or not. But when I got there, she was nowhere to be found. I looked around, spoke with the neighbors, but still nothing. And it came to a point where we literally had to involve police to find her. But fortunately, the next day, somebody was able to recognize her and bring her back to the apartment. That right there was a life-changing moment for our family. We started looking into tracking devices for her safety. And after doing a thorough research, talking to a lot of technology caregivers and organizations, we figured out that a lot of these tracking devices have several common issues, like limited geographical coverage, limited battery life of a day or two, and they do not work indoor. And another important issue that came up was a lot of these tracking devices are actually in the shape of either a wristwatch or a pendant. Now, people who are wearing those devices, sooner or later, they figure out why do they have to wear those devices at all times. And also, actually, those devices start bothering them in their day-to-day life. That's when they remove those devices, and that defeats the purpose. So based on the feedback that we got from those affected families, caregivers, and organizations, they actually wanted us to design something more discreet that can be easily attached to their clothing, their handbags, school bags, purses, etc. And that's how the idea of WeTruck was born. WeTruck is a small credit card-sized global tracking device that works on Internet of Things, and it allows you to monitor the location of your loved ones anytime and anywhere across the globe. The device comes with a SIM card inbuilt, and it is actually remotely controlled by a cell phone application that has several unique features itself as well. In terms of product features, so some of the features are like global coverage. So wherever there is a cellular coverage across the globe, the device works. And for geofencing, so what it does is it actually allows the caregivers or the family members to set up custom safe zones. And as soon as the device enters or exits a radius, you get an instant alert. For battery, the device has an actually extended battery life of up to 28 days on a single charge and can be easily recharged using a micro USB. Another important feature is right now we are actually talking about monitoring the location of either seniors or people who have some sort of mental disorders. So it's really not their responsibility to know that right now they have to charge the device, right? It's a family of their caretaker. It's the responsibility of their caretakers. So the device is actually smart enough to send the remaining battery life along with every location alert. So the caregivers or the family members, they're always aware of the remaining battery life, and they know when to recharge the device. As well as button. So what it does is in case of any unfortunate circumstances, when the person who is wearing the device, they're lost, they can actually just tap a button on the device and notify their family members or caregivers of their current location. The device is splash-proof, And another unique, important feature of our device is report scheduling. So instead of constantly worried about the location of the device and keeping on checking your cell phone application, okay, where the device is, what it does is it actually allows the caretakers or family members to set up custom schedules in terms of how often they want to receive the location alerts. Let's say every 30 minutes, every 2 hours, or every 6 hours, and also based on time of the day. So let's say between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And also based on days of the week, let's say Monday to Friday. And what it does is it actually also, the device stays in the sleep mode, and it saves a lot of battery. And yeah, so there are a lot of other existing tracking devices out there in the market. Then what sets us apart? What makes us different and better than the rest? So all those existing tracking devices can be separated into 2 categories. One is a Bluetooth tracking device like Tile or TrackR. Then the second category is a traditional GPS tracking device like Pocket Finder or AngelSense. Now the limitation with the Bluetooth tracking devices, it's very limited range of 100 to 200 feet. So basically the distance between the device and the mobile app has to be within that range of 100 to 200 feet. And outside of that range, the device doesn't work. In terms of traditional GPS tracking devices, it comes with its own set of limitations, like limited geographical coverage, limited battery life of a day or 2. They do not work indoor. And also when you go to crowded areas like downtown or a lot of buildings around, traditional GPS trackers do not work. That's where WeTrack comes in. WeTrack actually combines the power of cellular radio, Wi-Fi, and enhanced GPS technology to provide global coverage, extended battery life of up to 28 days on a single charge, and indoor tracking. Now, in terms of business model, there is a one-time competitive cost of the device as compared to other existing GPS trackers. And after that, the device actually uses a unique subscription model where there are no contracts. So user actually benefits from our pay-as-you-use model. And based on our target market, we have designed 2 very simple plans. One is a monthly plan, and another is an annual plan. Another source of recurring revenue for us is our own IoT tracking platform. So there can be other existing hardware devices for other tracking purposes, let's say fleet tracking. They can actually leverage our IoT tracking platform to fetch the location alerts. We were recently approached by a company in Latin America, and they wanted to use our IoT tracking platform to fetch the location alerts for their fleet tracking hardware device. In terms of market potential, so there are over 21 million people in China who are affected with autism, Alzheimer's, or dementia. And when we talk about US and Canada, there are over 9 million people who are affected. And this number will rise by another 75% in the next 15 years. Now, personal tracking device is over $11 billion market as of today. And it is actually projected to grow over $55 billion by 2020 with an annual growth rate of over 37%. And when we talk about US and Canada, the personal tracking device market is over $2 billion market with an annual growth rate of 11.9%. In terms of projections for year 1, which is 2018, and using our different sales modes and channels, we are projected to sell a little over 2,200 devices, and that actually gives us a gross revenue of close to $600,000. Now, one of the very important sales strategy for us is to actually directly partner with autism, dementia, and senior care organization. Reason for doing that is once we get their endorsement, it actually gives us a lot of credibility. And when we are on their social media, their newsletter, and everything, it actually gives us a way to directly reach out to the affected families, form of direct organic marketing. We actually got marketing partnership interest from Autism Canada, one of the biggest autism communities in Canada, and Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. And currently, we are also in talks with one of the biggest home care and retirement homes communities in Canada. And in addition to that, we'll definitely be leveraging other modes of sales like social media marketing and presenting at other seminars and conferences. In terms of traction, we actually, like I mentioned, we got marketing partnership interest from Autism Canada, Alzheimer's Society of Ontario, Grey Wave Retirement Homes Community, and also Osram in Europe. So Osram is one of the biggest global LED lighting provider company, but they're also expanding into elderly care. Then we were selected under top high potential program with Spark Innovation Center based in Oshawa. And we also exhibited at OCE Discovery last year and this year. And we were selected under top 10 startups to pitch for Aviva Ventures last year. Then recently, we have also partnered with Lake Ridge Hospital, who will be actually helping us out with our beta launch. In terms of timelines, the whole idea of VTrack was born in early 2016. And after that, we've actually validated our concept based on our work with different caregivers, autism and dementia organizations, and affected families. And after that, we were selected under top high potential program with Spark Innovation Center. And then we got a couple rounds of funding from OCE, NSERC, and IRAP. And based on that funding, we actually did the product development. We worked with Durham College and Centennial College. We developed our mobile application for iPhone and Android. And we also developed the industrial designs for the product. So as of today, we have a complete working prototype. And based on the partnership that we have with Lake Ridge Hospital, we plan to do a beta launch by end of this year. And last month, actually, we were proud to receive the OCE Smart Start funding as well. And last week, we received another round of funding from OCE and IRAP to work with Durham College. And based on the pace and progress that we have as of today, we plan to do a market launch by mid of next year. That's our VTrack team. So I have Masters in Healthcare Management, and I'm a PMP certified project management professional. I've been working in pharmaceuticals and IT industry for over 8 years now. Rashida Goyal, she's the co-founder, and she's been actually working with Lake Ridge Hospital, and also she's the one working with elderly care population and other senior care and dementia organizations, and bringing the real-time feedback in terms of what are the features that we can incorporate into our device and make it better and talk to the community, something that they need. Stephanie Wilkins, she is actually the PR Director of Music Therapy at Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. She's a recent addition to our team, and she'll be working on social media. Eric and Renee, they are graduates from Durham College and Centennial College, and they have received several awards in their respective domains. Eric will be helping us with, he's actually helping us with mobile application development and software development. And Renee is helping us with the industrial designs and hardware development and programming. In terms of financials, till date, we have invested over $150,000 in product development and testing. Major chunk of that comes from government funding, which is a combination of NSERC Engage, OCE VIP, WebTA, and Smart Start funding. And the last week funding $50K that we got from OCE and IRAP to work with Durham College. And we've also invested over $30,000 from our personal funds. And actually that funding has helped us to work with Durham College and Centennial College to complete product development. And right now we are in the phase of internal testing. In terms of exit strategy, we actually want to leverage the fact that our device has global coverage. So once we establish our footprints into different geographical locations across the globe, we plan to merge with bigger players like Osram, who have already their global footprints, and they're expanding into elderly care as well. So in terms of funding, we are seeking $350,000, and that will give us a runway of about 15 months. And the funding will be used towards manufacturing of beta units, tooling, refining, and also protection of our IP, and marketing and certifications. So we require product certifications like FCC, IC, and PDCRB. Those certifications are required for us to be able to sell our product across different geographical locations. So these certifications are required for North America. And then PDCRB is actually required for us to maintain the certification for the cellular safety, as our device is considered as a wearable. And then another chunk of the funding will be used towards paying the other engineers who will be working on the product. So we invite all of you to be a part of this mission and make this world a safer place. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Judges, I'm going to call upon you for questions and then comments.
Good presentation. how to turn it off if my wife wants to use it on me?
That's a good question. But right now, actually, our target market is people, either children between the age of 3 to 8, or people who have some sort of mental disorders. So we actually purposely didn't add that functionality, because if they, by mistake, turn it off, then that defeats the purpose. So we actually want to monitor the location at all times. And to your point, if that use case comes in, we'll definitely have to develop something like that.
No, seriously. Why is it like $149 per piece? I cannot speak in North America context, but in China context, if you sell like 20 million, you should reduce the price like to 50 or something that's more affordable, so people just won't think about it and then will buy, right? This thing can sell.
True, that's a good point, because right now we are working, initially we started working with some manufacturers here in Canada, in Toronto, and right now we are working with some manufacturers in China as well. We have got some price quotes with a quantity of about 5,000 units, but we are definitely trying to reduce the per unit price and reduce the overall selling price as well.
Thanks for your presentation, Sean. Great technology, and obviously a real demand for the technology and that type of solution. With respect to certification, do you anticipate any barriers to hitting the timelines in terms of actually getting the product certified and then getting it launched into the market for next summer?
We are actually working with a lab already who will be helping us with the certifications. The company is based in Kitchener. So we are already getting all the standards of those certifications, and we are designing our product based on those standards to ensure that our product is fail-proof in terms of certifications. And in terms of timelines, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to receive those certifications. So we have factored in all those timelines in terms of our overall market launch.
Hi, Ishan. I wanted to get a sense, and my apologies because I was outside for a bit. So,
Sure.
I wanted to get a sense of what stage are you at with long-term care facilities, and how do you, what is your strategy to cracking into that that market, because it's an extremely difficult, slow-moving market.
For sure. So there are two kind of sales channels for us. One is directly selling to the consumer, and second, to your point, is directly working with the senior care and retirement homes communities. So right now, we actually presented to one of the biggest retirement and senior care homes communities in Canada, Chartwell and Grey Homes. So we presented to them. They really loved our device, and we are actually in talks with them to do a potential beta launch in one of their facilities. And once we do that, then that will definitely open the doors for us to launch our product. So they currently own over 500 facilities in Canada itself. So if we have a successful beta launch in one of their facilities, maybe by end of this year or early next year, that definitely opens up the doors for other facilities and getting into the market as well.
Judges, feedback now on the presentation. Anything you'd like to see in the next iteration?
I think the presentation's appropriate for the stage of where you are. I mean, some of the companies that are presenting here earlier have been a little more advanced than you are in terms of, just in terms of traction. So what about the opportunity for third-party sponsorship of the devices?
Sorry, in terms of third-party?
Deferring the costs and increasing market penetration.
So we are definitely looking into that, but to your initial point, we are still at a prototype stage. We have a working prototype, and we are actually started to look into all different avenues where we can increase the reach of our device. Because one of the important factors is to educate the consumer. Because as of today, there are not a lot of people who are already using a tracking device for their affected individuals. So we are definitely trying to think of all these other ways where we can penetrate the market, get into the market, and educate the consumers about the benefits of the technology, how they can use the technology to ensure they're always connected to their family members.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I open the floor to the audience. Any questions from the audience? Fire away.
So you mentioned
Sorry, what was the interval, sorry?
Interval of the device to get 28 days of battery life?
So right now, if you're getting about 3 to 4 location alerts every day, the battery lasts up to 28 days on a single charge. But yes, if you're getting more location alerts, if you're turning on geofencing all the time, that definitely eats up the battery a lot quicker. So that's one reason, because battery life was one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people. And a lot of those existing GPS trackers, they do not offer any functionality of where you can set up the schedule and the devices in the sleep mode. So the device is constantly eating up the battery, and it lasts for only 1 or 2 days. So here we actually give user the control of the device. So if they're using only for 3 to 4 location alerts in a day, the battery lasts a lot longer.
At the back.
Competitor to this?
Sorry, what was that?
RFID chip, would that be a competitor?
We have actually looked into RFID chip. One thing is the location accuracy, and more sensors we use in the device that actually eats up the battery a lot quicker. And that's one reason our device is still credit card sized and not like pretty small like a pendant or a necklace, because there are those devices out there. One thing is to start bothering those people who are wearing those devices, they remove it. And another reason is the battery is a lot smaller. So that's why we have to make sure to have that perfect balance, that we are using the right sensors, and also the size of the battery is pretty good.
At the back.
You mentioned the kids market as well, but you focus more on the seniors market. What is your strategy for the kids market?
So in terms of kids, so right now we are focusing on autism only. So autism is mainly prevalent in kids between those ages. There are cases where there are autism cases for ages over 10, like 10 to 15 as well. But we are really targeting that market because we are working with a lot of technology caregivers in Toronto and Montreal area. And the feedback that we are getting is to focus in that age range, because that's where you really want to monitor the location at all times.
Just to follow up, what is the likelihood of the gadget being lost or misplaced or dropped and stepped on by the user?
There is always a probability of the device being lost. So the thing is, we are trying to go by maybe 80-20 rule. So if the user is wearing, let's say, a wristwatch or a pendant, right, and if they completely remove the device, that defeats the purpose. But even with this device, it's not like a chip that's embedded in your body. So there are definitely chances of the device getting lost, but the probability is a lot lower if you are actually tagging the device to their clothing, their handbags, their purses, or their school bags.
One last question. Anything from the floor? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your strong presentation. Well done. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had so many great presentations, and there's 2 more for you. Next, I'd like to call up Paytech to give us a wonderful presentation, tell us a little bit more about what they've been working on.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Payman. I'm the president and founder of Paytech. We are a smart industrial IoT company. Just a little bit background on myself. I graduated last year from Ryerson University, and we moved into the IBM innovation space. Where's the clicker? Oops. Is this? Oh, this is a clicker?
Yeah, it's just a different
Oh, wow. Yeah. Never seen the antenna like this. All right. Oh, great. So our company was founded in 2011. We've done a lot of R&D in industrial Internet of Things and advanced sensor technologies. In fact, we've developed 6 IoT platforms and products in the past, and we've done a number of paying pilot customers with them. And this is the interesting point. Through doing these pilot projects, we realized that there's a gap in the market of industrial Internet of Things, and our platform and our technology can actually address the gap. For that reason, we put all of our focus and resources to take our evolving technology and turn it into a commercial product. And to do that, we built a strong management team, more than 185 years of experience. And we decided to pick IBM Innovation Space, where we are at this point, as the point where we're going to launch our product to the market. All right. So everybody talks about IoT, and it's very great. We're actually doing it. We have $350,000 of revenue, and these are some of the featured customers we have. I'm sure you recognize the name Toyota, Johnson Controls, and Sheridan Nurseries. We've done different applications for them, but we use the same platform to do it. And I sort of mentioned in the past, when I first came in, I think nobody has heard of cyber physical systems. So I'm going to give you a before and after scenario. So today, processes are connected to computers through human interface. What the Paytech cyber physical system does, it eliminates the most expensive component of any business, the humans, from the equations, and directly connects the processes to computers. In other words, we've been working for computers for a long time. What the cyber physical system does, we make the computers work for you and not you for them. In fact, many of us have grown up in 1980s where we threw computers at the problem without understanding how we use human to act as the interface. In Industry 4.0, we get rid of the interface, and Paytech is actually at the heart of Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is actually a revolution. And you can see from the market projection, the market will be $151 billion by 2020, and it's going to grow 100 times more approximately by 2030. This is why this is called a revolution. So Industry 4.0 has been a lot of application. We specifically picked inventory and asset tracking because it's actually the hottest market when it comes to IoT. So when it comes to businesses, there's a lot of activities, there's a lot of transactions and movements. So these are some of the devices we use to actually move things from one location to another. So I'm going to pick one of these devices, the pallet. And I'm going to show you how this is tracked today. So when this pallet physically moves from one location to another, these are actually some of the devices we currently use. So, but the problem with these devices is, as things move, these devices have error. They have a lot of human effort, and they're not real time. And this causes a lot of mistakes and costs for any businesses. But the problem is, with many of us, if you can think about this, we've been seeing this technology for such a long time, we don't see these tools as a waste. So what I'm going to show you right now is what Paytech Cyber Physical System does. This is going to be very exciting, so please pay attention. So here, it's the exact same scenario. A pallet moves from one location to another. So what we do with our system, we have these virtual zones that we can define on a computer. Then we take Paytech smart tags and we attach them to a pallet right there. So these are magic tags, and I showed you. It's actually pretty small. Where is it? I'm not going to pull the rabbit. OK, there we go. So that's actually one of the tags. So when this device moves from one location to another, we actually automatically transact the data to the internet. So there's no human involved, and this process is actually completely real time and has no error. So with that said, and why this is actually a disruptive technology is because our customers would get a 6-month return on their investment. Especially in manufacturing, anything below 2 years of return on investment is considered a great investment, and we're down at the 6 months. Putting the tag back. So many of you might be asking, if this is such a great concept or idea, why no one else has been doing this? And I'm here to tell you that we can track the exact location of these tags with an accuracy of 10 centimeters in an indoor environment. Not only that, we can also sense various things, such as temperature, moisture, light intensity, vibration. Literally any type of sensing capability that you can think of, we can track with this tag. And this technology uses the magic technology of wireless. We have these gateways that sit around a big area, and we can track anything within that zone or the square that we put these readers. So we are the only company that combines localization and sensing to build a scalable, reliable, and flexible network. We call it WPSN. So let's now go through the competition, because there's always great ideas. Who's in the market? So when we took our technology and compared it against the competitors, we've realized that our tag response, the speed is 50 times better, our accuracy is actually 40 times better, and no matter how many tags we have in our system remains real time. And you can see really the difference when we compare our technology against the competitors is that when we track 10,000 tags, our system becomes 2,400 times faster. And this is exactly where the disruption is. And we compare ourselves against those companies at the bottom. They're global leaders in RFID. So we are not an RFID company. So we have our provisional patents in both software and hardware, which make it very difficult to duplicate. We actually have a global trademark for the word WPSN, which is wireless positioning and sensing network. How many of you people in the room know wireless sensor network or WSN? Please raise your hands. The engineers. There we go. So you guys will probably know the importance of this word. Actually, presenting a paper in Singapore in month of November for this exact same technology. It's under IEEE. So how do we go to market? So our platform has many applications. So in order for us to penetrate to different markets, we partner with different technical companies and partners. So our main focus is primarily at the manufacturing, but we also can serve all these other markets by relying on our partners. So these are the 3 case studies we've done. I'm going to quickly go through them. So in Sheridan Nurseries, the problem that we solved was that they had to send people into the field to check the soil conditions. So we made this process completely automatic. In Johnson Controls, they had an inventory accuracy of 75%. With our system, we brought it up to 99.74% of accuracy. Toyota, they had a problem with tracking quality of the paint on cars, and we made that completely automatic. So where do we start? Our target market is actually the discrete manufacturing in North America. And there's the early adopters is about 8,500, which is 2.2% of the total market in North America. All right. Going to the next slide. So what is our go-to-market strategy? As we mentioned, we rely mostly on our partners. So 75% of our revenue is anticipated to come through partners, and 25% comes through direct sell. And most of these sales would actually be online because our solution is plug and play, so literally anybody can install our system. We don't need to send experts into the field. You just open the box, you install it, and it starts working by itself. And these are some of the partners we have. You probably know some of the names. IBM, of course, we're in this building. Syspro is an ERP company. Westburn is a distributor of technology. Our revenue model is a SaaS. Our hardware is about 40% profit margin. Our software is 90% profit margin. Up until today, we've made more than $650,000 in non-dilutive funding through this organization that you see over here, and approximately $300,000 in investment. Those are some of the organizations that supported us as well. And we're actually very excited to be exhibiting at the Canadian Manufacturing Technology Show, which is happening next week. You guys should definitely check it out. It's amazing. It's the biggest in Canada. And our goal is to close 5 customers by April 2018. And as you can see, our EBITDA by December 2019 would be $2.32 million. And of course, these are very conservative numbers. We know it could be much more aggressive, but we're doing it in stages because we want to make sure that we always deliver on our milestone. On that note, we are raising $800,000 in investment. That money is going to help us commercialize our product. It's going to help us with sales and marketing and also working capital. This is the product that we're taking to market. And we've been doing a lot of projects. We got to a point that we realized that the market is ready to take our IP and our technology. So we need to be able to commercialize our product in a manner that we can actually serve the market in a much broader way. On that note, I would like to thank everybody to listen to my presentation, and I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for a very informative presentation in an area that perhaps not all of us were well versed, so thank you for bringing us up to speed. First, I'll ask the judges for their questions and then their comments, and then I'll open the floor to the audience. Judges table.
Thank you for the presentation. What's your business plan with respect to China?
Well, as you may know, China is the second largest industrial IoT market in the world. So we heavily rely on our industry partners. Knowing the fact that China is actually a large market, our plan is to come to China and actually deploy our system in China through a partner that we will close. And we're hoping to actually get the partnership through this program, and that's why we're so excited to be here today.
Just to carry on that question that Samuel touched on, which segments in China do you see when you talk about the largest IoT market opportunity, which I agree, but which ones are your sort of beachfronts that you want to go after?
So automotive manufacturing tier 1 is the primary one, but of course our technology is applicable to any most of manufacturing industries. So if our partners have the reach, of course we can serve the different industries, but if you were to pick one, it would be the tier 1 OEMs. Tier 1 OEMs manufacturing.
And your relationship with the ERP SysPro, how connected are they within that marketplace?
They're very connected. In fact, they have a lot of customers, 18,000, and Westburn actually have 100 locations in North America, and they have 22,000 locations around the world. So the fact that we're working with them early on, we are definitely confident that we can actually hit our market. So the one thing is, so I know to what you just asked, with the IoT market is not really about making the revenue, it's really about how you build a partnership to increase your trajectory, because this market is going to be in trillions, right? So it's all about how you position your partnership. So we're well positioned right now to get more of their customers to come on board.
Thanks for your presentation, Payman. Is there an optimum size of company from a manufacturing standpoint that your technology would fit with, or would a very small manufacturer benefit significantly as well?
Absolutely, the answer is both. So 75% of the manufacturing plants are about 50,000 square feet, so we would use that number as a base. It's literally $1 per square foot is the number we use to estimate the cost. And we are actually running a pilot project down the street with a SME who sees the value and who's very comfortable with the price that we offer for the system. So the way it works, we target SMEs primarily because there's a lot of them, but we can also serve the large enterprises because the way our system works, we can just add more readers and we can cover a larger area.
Thanks very much for the presentation, and congratulations on your first clients. In terms of when you won that business, what was your competition like? Why did Paytech win that business?
Well, our competitive advantage is directly in our intellectual property and our knowledge of the tech and also the business. So we win all of our competitions on the scale. So there's solutions out there that work relatively well in a small scale of 10 tags, right? But when we actually increase the number of tags, then their systems fails. This is why we're actually, by definition, are a disruptive technology, because we change the way things are done.
Do you expect to see any margin pressure in the future?
Well, absolutely. The margin pressure will be, as there's going to be more competitors, but so as the cost of hardware will go down, because we're going to have more chips and more sensors. So they're actually very relative. So we don't see the pressure. In fact, we have enough profit margin on our devices right now that we're selling that we should be comfortable.
Judges, any feedback for next iterations? Excellent. Any questions?
I'm so glad you guys are happy.
The only thing I would suggest on in the next iteration is to look at in more detail the strategy to the Chinese marketplace and how you see the opportunities there and how that marketplace can really benefit from your technology.
Oh, absolutely. Something I wanted to mention, just to the point you mentioned, Nigel Southey, who is actually a former president of SME, he took half of the companies from Canada to China. So, and he goes there probably 5 times a year. So he's going to be the person that's going to help us go to that market. So of course, we're building our channel, and he's going to be the person who's going to help us get to that market. But thanks for the feedback.
Questions from the floor? At the back, please.
Applications, just the pallets and the truck industry, that would be phenomenal itself. Have you talked with the manufacturers?
So I'm going to repeat your question. You mentioned this could also have applications in trucking business? Oh, tracking of the plows. Right now, the way we do it is we're going directly after the customers, because these are the ones who see the value. But of course, in our plan is to have us deploy and integrate our tags into the skids or skid. They call it a smart skid or smart container. So absolutely yes. Oh wow! You should come to our investor meetings. It seems like you have.
One more.
Yeah, just a quick question. How would you deal with disruptions? Like, for example, you're trying to hit manufacturing, right? And especially in factories, there will be many things that might disrupt the Wi-Fi connection between your tags and whatever is the receiver. Okay, so have you thought of any way of preventing that, or is it just foolproof?
Oh, you're talking about the electromagnetic interferences and different.
Yeah.
Well,
massive machines that might disrupt specific pinpoint locations, like what you said, right? If it disrupts the accuracy of the location, or even malfunctions your tag, it defeats your purpose, right? Since you are Wi-Fi connections do get cut off or say disrupted. So, is there any way that you can prevent that?
So the direct answer to your question is yes. We're not a Wi-Fi solution. This is actually RF, radio frequency. And all the power is actually on the network. This is why our solution is disruptive, because the way the network is designed is the network supports and compensates for the limitations or blockages that may arise because of different materials that are on its way. So we have done pilot projects in the past, and we are still doing them. And this is a revolving process to improve it, but the base tech is built for the exact specific environment, unlike other technologies.
Well, thank you very much for a thorough presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't take that with you. Oh, that's ours. Thank you. Okay, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, one final presentation. Would you warmly welcome Vaster to the stage, please? Jeremy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Goldman. I am the CEO of Vaster. We have a mission statement, as untraditional as that is, to create a rich, real-time communication channel to and for travelers. And so now the question is, why travelers? So travelers are extremely valuable. The industry itself is over $1 trillion. That number is actually probably a couple years old. It's probably closer to 1.3, 1.4 trillion. It's over 1 billion international trips a year. And we believe that in the discretionary spending proportion, it's over 250 billion a year. You might think of travel as something that's done in a majority sense before travel happens. The reality is that less than 50% of the spend of a travel happens before the trip. And that means that there's significant interest in being able to connect with travelers while they are actually traveling. So international travelers average about $240 per night of travel. And so this is actually quite an interesting opportunity, particularly given the Chinese connection here. China's actually probably, as a country, averaging well over $240. And in fact, as a percentage of growth over the last 10 years, they have the highest percentage around the world and have been averaging over 10% per year growth year over year. And international travelers are over 5 times as valuable as domestic travelers. So it is a marketplace and a niche that locals are looking to connect with. So why are they looking to connect? Well, first of all, the travelers lack that local knowledge. So they have a uncertainty, and they're out of their comfort zone. And as a result, they readily pay a premium for that comfort. Also, as well, they're seeking experiences. Those are generally high margin items provided by locals, and therefore the ability to reach them is quite important. So what is the problem for travelers? Well, you've probably been traveling, most of us have, and you've probably had a million questions you could have theoretically researched before you went. Now, of course, you're not going to research all of those questions. You're going to take that uncertainty and you're going to go on your trip, right? Maybe you've gotten some of the major things out of the way. If I have a medical condition, maybe I've reached or something in that regards, or I have one point of contact. But the majority of us encounter an uncertainty when we travel. Now, the solution, as I'll explain in a moment, for that stale content that you may be getting if you Google, for example, for the language barriers that occur, for the cultural barriers that occur when you're getting information, as well, if you're looking at a web page or an FAQ, you have no chance to clarify, right? It might answer 50% of your question, and you're saying to yourself, great, now what do I do? Interestingly, the origin of Vaster came when our founder went on a trip to China and encountered a lot of these issues with regards to cultural and language barriers, and said, well, if I can only find someone that spoke my language, in 15 seconds I could have my question answered. And at the end of the day, a speedy response is critical to providing value in this particular market segment. So what are travelers' current options? Well, there's a bunch of tech out there. We believe a little bit differently than most of these folks, but there's a number of sections. So, for example, messenger bots, you may be familiar with Facebook Messenger or Slack bots. They generally have a fairly limited knowledge set. In fact, you can get a bot on New York that has about 15% of what you probably might know. If you want to go on a real trip, you probably get 10, 20% of the bots that might potentially provide 10% of the information you're looking for. You can reach out on social media. You could reach out to your network of a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand people. But really, that's a pretty limited reach, and you're probably asking days and before, I'm going to New York, I'm going to Beijing, can you recommend something? So you have a pretty slow response. You've got local experience options, and in fact, Airbnb became quite successful initially at being able to provide you with a local connection. Today, that probably represents anywhere from 20 to 30% of the actual Airbnb renters as it goes much more corporate. But the idea that you could stay with a local and get their information is actually quite valuable. But at the end of the day, there is limited availability and there's a limited scope of the knowledge that those folks have. And then the last is the static content applications. Things like Google, TripAdvisor, Yelp, reviews that are there. Sometimes you read a review and you look at the bottom and you realize it's 7 years old. Well, what's the value of that? So we believe that the value is ultimately in providing a connection with real people. So yes, it's technology-based, but we're actually linking us back to real people to give you the answers and information that you need to get what you need on your trip. So this is the Vaster app. These are real screenshots, and we are on the Google Play Store and App Store right now. I'll wait while you go download and test it out. But ultimately, it's about a simple category and free text search of locals that you can initiate a real-time communication with them immediately. Chat, voice call, and even video call. It's about categorization. It's about getting profile and information that you can follow, and in fact, favoriting and following these people as you go on your trip. As I mentioned, calls. It's also about local content. So as you move from city to city, we've curated across right now just Canada, but eventually as we raise more money and continue to expand, China, South America, the US, with regards to local tourism content that gives you an ability to find out what's going on before you've even asked that question. As well, we've implemented some initial payment services, so there is an opportunity for those locals to be able to garner some payment from you for voice and video calls. So if you've chatted with them and you realize they have the information you're looking for, they can agree, yeah, in 5 minutes I can probably, solve that. You have that, 5-minute conversation, maybe it's $1 a minute, that $5 transaction goes through, they get something and you get something. So the Vaster team, at least the executive, we use the orange hats to signify the experts, try to get the expert word out of there because anyone's really someone who can provide information. Reza Ruhi, who is the founder and actually in the room, you can all wave to Reza. Reza is actually a serial entrepreneur, has a deep experience in communication technology, which is obviously a big piece of what our native application does. And William, who is our tech guy and lecturer at Ryerson University. As well, we have a few part-time and outsourcing our iOS development. So go to market, what are we doing? So currently our objective is user validation. So we're not looking to take over the world today yet. We know that we need to improve our model and improve it quickly. So we've been testing in Canada, Toronto primarily, such that we can create a critical mass quickly. So if you think about it, yes, we are a two-sided marketplace in some regards. We were able to create that one side of the marketplace very quickly in Toronto. Granted, it might not be the absolute best market for a tourism-oriented app, but we could get it done almost from day one. And then what we do is we do regionalized deployment. So because we have, you can think of it like Uber in some ways, a community that needs to be looked after and fostered and monitored, we have a regionalized partnership model. We don't understand every language in the book, in the world, and so we utilize partners worldwide. We're talking with 2 right now to be able to look after the communities in various other areas of the world. So metrics. So from our first 1,000 installs, we're looking at an average cost of install of about $250. Overall, total cost of install is about $195, and an average lifetime value estimation of about $231. You're probably looking at that and saying, okay, well, that's okay, but where does the real, where do you get to leverage this hugely and make a significant amount of money? So our opportunity is in events, actually. So from a function perspective, our process of asking questions and getting answers and delivering content is actually highly relevant for the event community. So we've decided to provide it to events on a frankly disruptive basis and provide it at very low cost because frankly from our perspective user adoption and the ability to access that marketplace is far more important than getting a couple $1,000s from an event. So it's already out there. We've talked to, whoops, my apologies. Actually, what you can see on the branding right before, actually I'll go back that slide. So we have signed 1 event so far as a proof of concept. So the event is an event called EGLX, which is an esports event here in Toronto in March, coming up 2018. Will be between 20 and 30,000 attendees downloading the app, reading content within our one single app, and having access also to the travel opportunity to connect. So their staff, their volunteers, are individuals that they will connect with. The content feed will be customized while they are at their event for their content. And after the event for a period of time, they will be able to look at that content, and then it will transition back to the Vaster app. So from our perspective, we get 0 cost, whoops, wrong way. 0 cost on 20 to 30,000 installs. Our model suggests, yes, it's probably a little bit lower than if someone had come in from a tourism perspective. But they get an app for very low cost, saving them money, and giving them an opportunity to do what they couldn't do before, which is a lot more real-time communication. So we are a marketplace model. As I mentioned already, we have regional partner modeled such that, we're not experts in the Peruvian market, which right now we're talking with the Pan Am 2019 Games Committee, for example. We will have a regional partner that can both speak Spanish and understand the local partners and advertisers, for example. And we also have a iterative scoring model for the orange hats or the expert community, such that we both have a tool and they have a tool to both self-monitor and actively monitor the community and ensure that it stays healthy. So the revenue model has a bit of maturation to go. Basically, we're looking at 30-70% splits on calls and tips to be implemented soon. Ultimately, we'll be able to facilitate purchases as well. We'll also look for premium features both to implement on the user side, things like searching in multiple locations, looking ahead versus just locally, as well as on the expert or orange hat side with respect to enhanced branding opportunities or self-response bots that would be able to enable them to enhance their model. So the revenue model has three major groups. Event revenues, so there will be some upsell there, even though we may charge next to nothing for the base model of what we can do for them, which would probably be anywhere from a $2,000 to $20,000 value. The user revenues, which I just mentioned, as well as advertising revenues from that content feed. In terms of milestones and metrics, in February we launched Android beta in Toronto. In March, we started off with the iOS version. In July, 500 registered users. In August, we secured that esports event, as well as modified our UX or user experience that actually changed our metrics from basically bumped it 250% with respect to the actual the searches we were getting on a daily basis. In terms of competition, there are kind of two sets of competition here. There is already an existing Connect with Locals market. We differentiate by that real-time communication aspect. So the idea that you're able to reach out and even make that voice call or video call upon initially seeing that profile is how we differentiate from Locify and with locals and tours by locals. And then from an event model, again, it's really more about that real-time communication. Expect that it's a whole different set of competitors that provide essentially means of providing content to event participants. I'll go through the couple of appendix slides. So it's about 2.5 years based on our projections to break even. About $750K required, although we'll probably look to raise about $500K right now. And then lastly, I won't say it's inspiration because it only happened about 3 months ago, but I did write a blog about it. So this is a fairly famous individual. So Mark was doing his cross US tour to visit all the states he hadn't visited. And, he did what a lot of us would do. He would reach out and say, okay, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. Who can help me out with something? Now, the advantage is that Mark Zuckerberg has 70 million followers. And you and I have, if you're on Facebook, a few hundred, maybe a few thousand if you're lucky. So what we're trying to do, and he had thousands of responses, is give everyone here in the room the ability to do what Mark did and give you the value that only Mark can get out of something like Facebook, but put it into faster. Thank you.
Jeremy, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to turn the floor over to the judges for questions and then feedback, and then we'll open the floor up to the audience as a whole. Judges, thoughts, comments, questions?
Thanks for your presentation, Jeremy. Can you tell us how do you build those regional partnerships? So kind of what's your in with respect to building that on-the-ground local partnership?
It's a good question. many times we look at events as a good entree. So if we're looking, for example, as we are in Peru, at bidding on the 2019 Pan Am Games, in many times there's partners built into the bidding and execution process. So from that perspective, they have both a vested interest in helping us execute on that particular event, as well as a vested interest in helping us foster a community outside of that event at the same time. So it's, I won't say we have it completely figured out, but that's our initial set of criteria in terms of how to help us find the right people in each individual market.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. And speaking from experience, I saw one of your slides there, and I can actually tell you that my wife and I, when we were in Australia and Sydney, we actually witnessed a seagull eat someone's fresh seafood as they were walking to the table.
It was a lack of local experience.
So the I understand the concept, and my wife and I do a fair bit of traveling, but we have a tendency to go on a group tour-based traveling, because although we're very willing to explore new areas, it's that uncertainty of what is it that's so unique in this particular area that would really make it interesting. So I love the concept. Okay, the one question I did have on your customer, and you can capture the customer, and I saw the event opportunity as being one way of doing that. But what happens after the event? That one user, because there's no event anymore in that particular location, right, how do you maintain them coming back and coming back and coming back?
That's a good question. And certainly, you know, the ability to attract a potential traveler and have them engage with the app and understand what's going on, and attracting an event participant and having them engage with the app and continue to use are two different use cases from our perspective. And we have to treat them differently. At the end of the day, there is still a re-engagement process that we will go with, because not everyone's constantly traveling. This is currently, from a travel perspective, an app you're probably going to use periodically, a bit like Uber, right? You'll keep it there for a while. You won't use it necessarily for 3-4 months, and then you'll use it again. Part of it is the content of, while we focus on our key use cases being during travel, the idea that you can look ahead and figure out what's going on in a place you're going to be is going to be actually one of our first premium features, probably. So if you've used the app, you understand how it can be useful locally. The ability to then look elsewhere and essentially understand what's going on in a new market is part of our re-engagement process. But yeah, there's definitely going to be an effort in refining that re-engagement. It's no question about that.
I think the ability to crowdsource this kind of advice is really interesting. I'm just curious as to how you're going to police the good advice or separate good advice from bad advice.
Part of it is an iterative scoring system. So what you didn't see is a process with which an individual can either report or identify as helpful a response set that they may have gotten. And our expectation is that, you know, there will be so many communications that we will need a process to be able to do that. So the system itself will help us. Will it be, you know, 100%? No, no system's 100%. But that ability to understand the nature of the query, which queries you did well on, recommending you for those queries and only those queries is a key piece of I don't want to call it machine learning. It may eventually become machine learning. It's not that yet, but as it gets more and more complex, that is a piece. As well, because we would only perhaps here in Toronto be able to manage, say, North America, that regional partner group will also have visibility within the community. So able to oversee, you know, who's scoring well, what's going on, where are my weaknesses from a a category perspective, right? So if we see we're getting lots of questions on a particular category and they're all, they're not getting answered as well, it can be a quick response to go out and market to that particular kind of community, whether it be on Twitter or locally or whatever it is. So that incredible visibility into our database gives us immediate reaction to find the people we need to make the service better.
And feedback for next versions of the pitching?
Yeah. Yeah.
Traction to users, orange ads, and
right.
Level of activities.
Well, we've already won here. Max asked for a proof of concept demo, so whether we get money out of this opportunity or not, we lead often, as I mentioned, with events. So whether it's a proof of concept event, it can be a tourist destination or a tourist city. It doesn't have to be specifically a conference or a sporting event that draws us into a particular market. And remember, that event isn't relying on the rest of the community. The rest of the community is a benefit, over and above what that event has. So even if we come into a community with 0 local orange hats, 0 experts, we still deliver great value for the event organizer because they're using their own resources. The rest of the community falling in behind it all just makes sense, both from a community perspective and as well from the local partner that has, we'll be sharing revenues with them, obviously, so they're looking to create a community in and around the post the event as well. So it all makes sense from a event perspective. And the international travel is one of the great barriers, right? So language and culture are 2 of the greatest uncertainties that I can face. I've been to China, Rez has been to China. You deal with a lot of uncertainty. You take that as your level going in. But if you had a tool that could give you an access to eliminating one of those million questions that will come up, but you don't know which one, that's an easy $5 to throw at that opportunity. So from our perspective, it's a great opportunity for us, whether it be China with respect to this proof of concept event, or whether it be the Asian Games in Indonesia, or Pan Am Games, or the Sea Sports event in Toronto. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, so it's a good question. We're looking at really our next event to either be securing either the Pan Am Games, which will probably be decided in the next 2 months. And if that's the case, we may move to South America, particularly Peru, as a community organization first. But frankly, it's interesting. Since we launched on iOS, the response from China, even though we don't really even support China yet, we've had thousands of people attempt to download our app. We'll be turning on China from a support perspective in the next 4 weeks. And those over 1,500 people that have expressed an interest will be able to access the app for the first time.
Judges, are there any comments that you'd like to make for the next version of the pitch before I turn to the audience? Excellent, very thorough. All right, at the back, then in the middle.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we're somewhat disruptive in the way we take it. So we will likely have to establish the community, and we'll probably get them to call us when they say, wow, these guys better be contacted first, because they're the ones actually talking to our customers before we are.
At the back.
A couple questions or comments. A, have you explored opportunities in teaming up with the Lonely Planet or Let's Go tour guides? For whatever reason, when I was traveling years ago, and to me, getting work with guides would have been great.
Right.
And they're always looking for input from locals. I'm not sure how they're doing on or work. Yeah. The second part of it is, how do you compete, or how do you look in terms of differentiation with the blogs or the blog like plannertalk.com, which is a group of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of travelers, always traveling from one place to the other, vacation, business trips.
Right. So answering your first question, we haven't spoken with those particular, but we have spoken with others that are of interest. And they've been interested in evaluating how we can work with them. And the real question now is developing what a proof of concept looked like for them, particularly because our app is a different kind of model. So one of the companies, for example, is one called the travel company that runs Kontiki. So they have tours around the world. Now they have an established channel for getting their customers, but they have an interest in potentially communicating with those customers on an ongoing basis. So really the challenge for us, and we've had our first of our conversations there, is to develop what would that test model be. So we're in the process of discovering that right now. The second question, sorry, remind me the... Oh, so blogs. So one of the things that may not have been clear from the model is that we actually, if you ask a question, it actually ends up being a one-to-one communication. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with a site called Quora, which is more of a forum, which I guess the blogs are, in that sense, more of a forum sense. We try and take out of it the competitive nature or the crosstalk that can potentially happen in a blog. Right? So that question answer is one-to-one. That individual that's answering the question may get some metrics or understanding that the question is, it's 3 hours old, 10 people have asked, 3 people have answered, but they're not actually seeing the responses. Right? So the idea is that you're responsible for your answer, and that's really all you're directly responsible for. You're not cross-talking about, well, that place sucks, my place is better. Like there's none of that. It's about direct one-to-one communication. At least that's how we're doing it for the next little while. And if that we decide to do otherwise, then maybe. But right now it's one-to-one, so there's no crosstalk. Thank you. Thank you.
One quick short question, Henry?
Right. Right. So in some sense, we're not saying that we're better than Expedia. Right? If you can get your answer right now from Expedia, then go ahead. Now, the problem with Expedia, TripAdvisor is probably a better example. But so, like, we're not, for example, offering flights. We're not offering accommodations, at least not right now. But if you're looking for the answer to a complex question that Google isn't coming up with, right? Let's say language is an issue. You're looking for a local doctor because you've hurt yourself, you're a tourist, and you don't know where to go, right? Googling doesn't work. TripAdvisor doesn't work. Yelp doesn't work. Expedia doesn't help you. Where do you go for that answer? You probably look for someone around you to help you out. But you've got thousands of people locally that could help you out. You just don't know how to reach them. And that's ultimately the bridge that we're looking to cross for you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for a strong presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, we've been very lucky today. We've had 4 tremendous presentations. We've also learned a lot about the Tianhe area and the THero competition that is going to be the international competition for which these companies are presenting. But there's a lot of work that went into today. And first of all, I'd like to take a moment and ask the judges to stand. And let's thank them for their comments, their thoughts, and their contribution for today. Angelo, Belinda, Corey, and Samuel, thank you so much for what you've done today. And we're very lucky to have a very gracious host who put all of today together and who brought us all together today. So could I ask Linda from the Canada-China Club to come and close us out today? Thank you very much.
You was already on? Thank you, everyone. When I look at the audience here, we have about 5 angels left here. we angels stay to the very end. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Angelo for being our director of the THero. He was the one working very hard to put all this together. And Jason and Victor worked very hard on the weekends and overnight to put all the admin and last minute work together. And of course, the best MC ever we could have, Jess. And she always does an amazing job, and we are very honored to have her here. And of course, the judges again, thank you. And upcoming, other than this THero, we also have other events that are coming. So that it's separate from this THero event. Once this is done, we should have more events coming about THero until the competition sometime beginning of the 2nd of November. That is the THero. And that's one thing it's going to be running on for the next couple of months, next 2 months. And at the same time, we're also launching an online pitching, which it's going to be bi-weekly pitching. So our local startups, and we have opportunity to meet or to be able to do pitch in front of the audience overseas. So this is also another very exciting opportunity coming up. And we are looking forward to working with all of you to build this community and make it. We work as a community and we build the opportunities and make it global. And so we all share the goods and the opportunity. Thank you.